Thanks. So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of MindShifters Radio, and today is Wednesday, May the 17th, 2023. And our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. And we'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And we'll give Michael a moment to dial in. Decided that we would just read a little bit each day out of the Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And I've also got a guided journal that I haven't gotten into yet, so I need to do that. I'll probably have some insights from that one as well. But then after I read from it, then Michael is giving the comparison of how it fits with the work that we are doing here. And I invite you to go to the website and look around. I have now changed the schedule. It still had that we were going to do Heartland in 2023, and we are not. So I've changed that. I think I made all the other corrections. We've got the book club from this last week, from last Thursday, the 11th, where they covered Chapter 3. And that's really interesting and would be a good study if you have the book, or you can get it online for free. You can download it or just read it on our website. But they're going chapter at a time. In the previous, when they started the Why Is This Happening to Me Again in the book club, they were doing like 3 chapters at a time. And this time they're going into a little more depth, and they're doing 1 chapter at a time. So you can go to our website and under schedule, click on Global Online Book Club, and there will be the archived shows, and you'll see that there's Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. So you can go back and listen to them, read through the chapter, and have the discussion on the meaning of each of those chapters. So I invite you to do that and participate. And I spoke to a lady this morning and suggested, she was interested in this work going to some mental health workers. And I said, well, I suggest that they listen to the free 3-hour Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop that's under schedule, and then click on that and listen to 3 hours of the Why workshop. And that's going over the worksheet, the wake-up sheet. And I said, then after they listen to that, then have them get in touch with us, if they want to do an interview or something with Michael. So hopefully we'll hear something from that and take it a little further. And so Michael has joined us, and do you want to say anything before I start reading, Michael?
Oh, why don't you just go for it, sweetie?
All right. So picking up where we left off yesterday, and this is in the chapter called Your Inner Roommate. And to attain true inner freedom, you must be able to objectively watch your problems instead of being lost in them. No solution can possibly exist while you're lost in the energy of the problem. Everyone knows you can't deal well with a situation if you're getting anxious, scared, or angry about it. The first problem you have to deal with is your own reaction. You will not be able to solve anything outside until you own how the situation affects you inside. Problems are generally not what they appear to be. When you get clear enough, you will realize that the real problem is that there is something inside of you that can have a problem with almost anything. The first step is to deal with that part of you. This involves a change from outer solution consciousness to inner solution consciousness. You have to break the habit of thinking that the solution to your problems is to rearrange things outside. The only permanent solution to your problems is to go inside and let go of the part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality. And once you do that, you can be clear enough to deal with what's left. There really is a way to let go of the part of you that sees everything as a problem. It may seem impossible, but it's not. There is a part of your being that can actually abstract from your own melodrama. You can watch yourself be jealous or angry. You don't have to doubt it or analyze it. You can just be aware of it. Who is it that sees all of this? Who notices the changes going on inside? When you tell a friend Every time I talk to Tom, it gets me so upset. How do you know it gets you upset? You know that it, and their wording, of course, is off, but you know that it gets you upset because you're in there and you see what's going on in there. There's a separation between you and the anger or the jealousy. You are the one who's in there noticing these things. Once you take that seat of consciousness, you can get rid of those personal disturbances. You can start by watching. Just be aware that you are aware of what is going on in there. It's easy. What you'll notice is that you're watching a human being's personality with all its strengths and weaknesses. It's as though there's somebody in there with you. You might actually say you have a roommate. If you would like to meet your roommate, just try to sit inside yourself for a while in complete solitude and silence. You have the right, it's your inner domain. But instead of finding silence, you're going to listen to insistent chatter. Why am I doing this? I have more important things to do. This is a waste of time. There's nobody in here but me. What's this all about? And so forth. Right on cue, there's your roommate. You may have a clear intention to be quiet inside, but your roommate won't cooperate. And it's not just when you try to be quiet. It has something to say about everything you look at. I like it. I don't like it. This is good. That's bad. It just talks and talks. You don't generally notice because you don't step back from it. You're so close that you don't realize that you're actually hypnotized into listening to it. Basically, you're not alone in there. Two different aspects of your inner being. The first is you, the awesome, or the awareness, the witness, the center of your willful intentions. And the other is that which you watch. Problem is, the part that you watch never shuts up. If you could get rid of that part, even for a moment, the peace and serenity would be the nicest vacation you've ever had.
And when you first enter into that practice, we've spoken often about become the thinker apart from the thought, the feeler apart from the feelings, the actor apart from the actions. Be the observer. Realize that you're not all the stuff that's happening inside of you. And then recognize there's a way to collapse that game. There's a way to put an end to it. If I define a word as a tool of communication, and obviously a tool of communication is something that's used when there's an interaction between two people. That's a reasonable definition for everybody. Then I just invite you to notice that there are words running in your head right now. And you're not speaking them to anyone else. So the question, this comes out of our communication, did you hear what I think I said workshop, is who's in there with you? Who's talking to who? Who's giving meaning to everything you see? And of course, if you go to the Course in Miracles, one of the early lessons in the Course is, I have given this everything it means. I have given it every meaning it has for me. Once I realize that, and if I'm hooked and stuck in highly charged emotional meanings, and I live in denial. Denial, once again, being thinking or speaking as though something outside of you is the cause of what's moving inside of you. There's one of the earliest places to interrupt the insanity of the non-being mind. As Michael says in his book, that thing's just going to go on and on and on and on and on and on. When you get a moment's reprieve from it, it is refreshing. But at first, it's only just, for most people, it's only just for a second or two. And then that thing just starts right up again. As you practice forgiveness, as you practice collapsing the whole internal process and bringing the underlying energetic dynamics involved in that internal process forward in the presence of love, there is a transmutation of those energetic patterns. Now, one of the things that, in our culture, most people want is instant. They want instant food, they want instant this, instant that, and they want instant healing. So someone who spent 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years listening to and engaging in that internal dialogue in insanity, hostility, and fear, and whenever it moves, they enter into a conversation about somebody else. Again, that's our definition of denial. By virtue of being born into the world, most everyone by about the age of 4 is a card-carrying member of the one world universal religion of blame. What's happening inside of me is somebody else's fault. It's the biggest lie that's ever been told. What's happening inside of me, because it's inside of me. And you'll notice if you listen carefully to the projection language that most of the world uses, as well, you're upset about that, right? How did that make you feel? Excuse me. You've never been upset about anything in your life. You just have upset, and when the upset's triggered, off goes the mind. And because you're a card-carrying member of the one world religion, universal religion of blame, then your conversation's about who it is that's the reason today that this untoward energy is moving inside of me. The blame game. It's always somebody else's fault. Now, when you ask yourself the question, how long has this been going on? Remember that song? How long has this been going on? Generations and generations and generations. If you look at one of the historical reference points in our culture, the ancient scriptures, you hear the starting of a story, starting in story form, of the beginning of human life. And within a very short time, I don't know that, I've never really looked at it with this eye, but within a very short period of time, I'm not sure exactly how many hours or days this was going on before this blame started, but you'll remember this guy named Adam confronts God with a problem in his life. And notice that it's this woman. Boy, that story's been going on for a long time. And then, in case that blame isn't deep enough, he has a second layer of blame. This woman that you gave me. That's how long the conversation's been going on in humanity. And I just invite you to look around. I mean, I've done surveys, especially when we do our communications, you hear what I think I said workshop. I've asked hundreds and hundreds of people around the globe when we do that workshop, how many lived with a parent who, when they were in upset, languaged responsibly that the upset was something that was theirs. In that workshop, we delineate between what we call projection language. Projection language is where one implies or specifically states that something outside is the cause of what's moving inside. So, and that sounds like, you made me mad, you made me sad, you hurt me, you're the reason I failed at that, and on and on and on goes the conversation. And then, so that's projection communication. And projection communication is where one has a reality structure, a construct in their minds called perception, and they describe that perception as though it is caused by something out there. Responsibility communication, an individual has a perceptual construct moving in them, and they language with the awareness that they're not describing something out there, but rather they're describing an internal condition, an internal process that's happening. More like, wow, some anger really came up in me when you said thus and so. Gee, when you did that, a lot of hurt started to move in me. And so I've asked thousands of people the question, how many were brought up with the parent, the father, the mother, that spoke in terms that held themselves accountable, and instead of using projection language and projection communication, actually used responsibility communication? In all the years that I've been doing that, and I probably did my first communication, did you hear what I think I said, workshop, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago? In all the years I've been doing that, I've had 2 people in my audience that put their hand up and said, yes, I was raised with that father. One of them, we were actually, Jeanie and I were on a yacht. We had a great invitation. We were in Miami, and there was a fellow who's a multi-millionaire, a big yacht, and he had some friends. He'd come across this work, and he asked if we'd come out with them and present the why workshop, which we did. And when I asked that question, there was a young man who put his hand up, and he shared with me the fact that now that his father utilized that method of communication. His father had studied with me about 25 years earlier. His mother was there too, but he didn't put his hand up for her. He had a mother who spoke and used responsibility communication, but his father did. And then the second time we had that happen, that was before I met Jeanie. Oh, no, you were there, Jeanie. You were there for both times. You were on that yacht with me. And the other time we were out in Washington State, and there was a young woman in the audience who put her hand up in response to that question. And I was kind of surprised at what all she shared. And her father, too. She referred to her father. Her father, too, had taken and dealt with this work. She was, I don't know, I think maybe around 25 when we were out there, somewhere between 25 and 30 probably, years she'd been circling around the sun. And when she was, I think about 13, her father had come to Heartland to be on the support team for the summer. And he brought his daughter with him. And she shared in that, no, actually, I think she was 11, as I'm recalling now, as I'm thinking about what she shared. I believe she was 11 when she came to Heartland. She was there for the whole summer. She was actually a physician. And she shared that the reason that she'd gone into medicine was because that summer at Heartland, she healed one of the most important issues of her life, and that inspired her to move into the realm of healing. Her father and her mother had separated shortly after she was born, and she was raised believing that it was the fact that she came into the family that they separated, and therefore it was their fault. And her mother was quite clear with her that it was her fault. So she was 11, I'm pretty sure. And what she shared, this was when we were out west, and asked that question, what she shared was that having all those years told it was her fault, that she was able to heal that summer the belief that had been planted in her that was her fault that her parents separated. And letting go of that was like a major load lifted in her life. And that she had a father that when he spoke in terms of responsibility communication instead of projection communication. Now, most of the world is stuck in that game. They don't even know there's such a thing as responsibility communication, and they don't even have a clue And one of the things that I did when I was writing Why Is This Happening to Me Again, I went to a large bookstore. I did this several times, and I just sat and read different books by different people in the field of healing from the point of view of either a psychologist or psychiatrist or minister or counselor. And virtually every one of those books, sooner or later, as they're talking about the dialogue they have with their client, they would ask one of the biggest mistaken questions that any psychologist, any healer, any doctor, any psychiatrist, any minister, any priest, any rabbi, the biggest mistaken question that could possibly be asked. And that was, sooner or later, go read some books in that field, and you'll see that just about every one of them, in fact, I never found one that didn't ask the question, well, when that happened, Bill or Mary Jane, when that happened, how did that make you feel? What we now know is a person who would ask that question has no clue about how reality works, no clue about how perception is constructed, and certainly no clue what projection is. Most of that field defines projection as taking something that's inside of us and putting it outside of us. And that's not projection. That's externalization. Projection is the act of taking thought disorders, or actually anything, and constructing pictures in your mind about it. So when the mind generates a reality, that reality comes from brain cells. It's projected from a complex of thoughts. If it's a reality that we feel good with, that like we're rocking, our physiology's turned on and going, then you know that the complex of thoughts involved in that is based in love. If the reality is one that's a downer, a bummer, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm afraid, I'm pointing my finger everywhere, then we know that that projected construct of the mind comes from a complex of thought disorders. That as long as they're projected, so you take a thought disorder, it's resonated into activity by someone, and you build your brain's image of that someone out of that thought. That's projection. The mind has this unique capability, and that is it literally takes digital information and turns it into pictures. Just like your TV, a digital signal comes in, it goes into the TV, and bingo, you've got a picture. So nothing but information goes in the back of that TV. There are no pictures in the signal that goes in. But there's a converter that converts that information into pictures. The human mind is exactly the same. It converts information into pictures, and every picture tells you first about the content of your own mind. But when somebody says, how did that make you feel? The whole process gets turned around. The question rather would be, well, gee, when that happened, what came up for you? What did your mind project into its construct of the moment, its reality? And if someone describes something based in some form of pain or trauma, then you know that person has some form of pain or trauma within them that needs to be faced and removed. Forgiven. Remembering that the word forgive means remove. It does not mean to let one off the hook. The whole idea, and virtually the whole world is practicing forgiveness, or what they call forgiveness, in a totally and completely errant form. I'll let you off the hook because I've projected this into my brain's image of you, and therefore you must be the problem in my life. Well, yes, I have been through this problem 87 different times with 42 different people, but it has to be your fault now, the same as last year it was his fault, and the year before it was her fault, and the year before it was their fault, and the year before it was, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before. Oh, golly. When does it end? It ends when you actually understand that nothing makes you feel anything. Feelings are an indicator, a signal sent out by a cell that tells the thinker of the thoughts what the quality of the thoughts are that they're thinking. If you go into the cell biologist, well, let's back up one more step. 2,000 years ago, the opening words in the book of John do not say, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh. They knew the neuroscience 2,000 years ago. That's not what it said. What it said is, in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh. Now, come forward 2,000 years. Let's go into Bruce Lipton's cell biologist laboratory and watch him perform the experience. And he'll show you that when you think a thought, that thought produces a neuropeptide, an actual molecule in your structure. And that molecule circulates around in your structure until it finds a cell with a receptor site that matches. It lands on the cell and inserts itself in the cell. And if we were sitting inside the cell waiting for that insertion to happen, and we watched that neuropeptide come into the cell, what we would call, what we observed coming into the cell would be chemistry. Mind energy becoming flash. Now, if the emotion that goes along with a piece of mind energy is one based in trauma, what do you suppose the cell is communicating to us? Literally, I'm offering that when that neuropeptide hits the cell responds with information about the quality of the neuropeptide. Doesn't feel good. It doesn't belong in your structure. But most people, having no clue that their mind energy is becoming physiology, is becoming flesh, most people get lost in the false pictures their minds generate about how it's all everybody else's fault. So this man Yeshua 2,000 years ago had a solution for this dilemma. He showed people exactly how to collapse the projected pain that people held, how to access the unconscious part of the mind involved in that process, and how to heal it. This was not about theology. The reason it stuck around for so long is it works. Now, people occasionally luck onto something that works. And it'll work today, but it won't work tomorrow, and it won't work the next day, and they luck into something the next day, and it works, and then it won't work, and then it will work, and then it happens, and then it doesn't. What Yeshua offered 2,000 years ago was a tool that if you applied it persistently and consistently, especially when you were in pain, you would eradicate the pain from your life. Is a signal there's a thought disorder active in your mind, and that thought disorder hitting the cell, that literal mind energy hitting the cell, causes what we call feelings or emotions, more correctly. And those emotions that are painful are signaling destructive changes within your own cellular structure. You'll remember that we've reviewed several times the definition of the word sin as an archery term. And when somebody fired at the target and missed the bullseye on the archery range, the scorekeeper would yell, sin, you're off the mark. When they said the wages of sin is death, they were saying, folks, if you put destructive mind energy, toxic mind energy into your system's going to warn you with some sort of untoward emotional response. If you stop pretending that emotional response is caused by something outside of you and start to recognize that that emotional response is caused by what you're doing to yourself internally, then you'll be able to address and rid yourself of the mind energy that's destroying physiology. Because when they said the wages of sin is death, it was not some kind of theological threat that God's going to get you for your sins. It's simply a statement about here's how physiology works. You put enough disintegrative energy into those cells, yes, there's going to be screaming, raging pain as the cells deteriorate and die. Get enough cells dying and you die. It's just how it works. So I hope that fits and makes sense for everybody. And if you have a question or thought for us, our call-in number, if you're on one of those stations, especially where we can't see you, is 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you'll be listening to the show. And then if you push 1, you'll be in line to talk with us. Let's have a conversation. How can we support you? What's on your mind? Miss Jeanie, we have anything happening in the chat room or anybody doing anything in the, or have a hand up?
It is all quiet. So if someone presses 1, you're first in line. And we have a lot of people on the switchboard today. So come on, press 1. We've got
somebody say hello. Does everything that I just said make sense? And if it doesn't, call me on it. Let's see if we can open up some discussion and get some refinement here. Is there anything we can support you or fill in any holes that will help to make more sense of this?
We got a hand up.
Hey, awesome. Let's say hello.
541. It's Miss Celinda. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Oh, good. Welcome, young lady. How are you? We haven't heard your voice in a while.
Yes, it's garden time now, and I find myself having to make choices of do I listen to it all or do I get in my garden? And, of course, the garden tends to win a lot of times because it's got its tongue hanging out at the moment. We just went from winter to summer here. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you for reading Michael Singer's chapters. And I take it that you have that book club in your information, how to sign up if a person's interested.
Well, we're not doing the Michael Singer in the book club, but the information on that's the Why Is This Happening to Me Again, that the Global Book Club is going chapter by chapter.
Oh, good. Okay.
Of Michael's book, yeah.
Yeah, right. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you're reading Michael Singer because I'm finding that Aramaic gospel, maybe not in the correct languaging, but seems to me, from my perception, to be popping up in every single spiritual path. Just have to dig sometimes to find it.
When you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear.
Yeah, and it's just like there's so much more in common than there is in conflict between religions, and I think those conflicts are all self-generated anyway, that it's nice to know and to see and to feel this connection with someone of another faith, because you have connected with their heart energy and their spirit, and it's really beautiful when that happens.
Sweet.
I don't remember the name of the book anymore, but right after 2911.
Your voice has disappeared, Celinda.
I said,
you can get back closer to your phone again.
Okay, good. That there was a book that came out that was written by 3 women, and it was a Jewish lady, an Islamic lady, and a Christian lady who happened to meet at the bus stop to go to work right after 9/11. And they started talking with each other. They didn't even know each other. And they wrote this book. And it was just precisely that theme of not understanding each other and jumping to conclusions and making assumptions and, getting stuck in your own cultural languaging and things like that. But when we go to the heart, we can find the truth. Spirit, I think, resides in the heart, not the heart of the unconscious, but our heart of our higher self, the love heart of all it is. But anyway, I'm just glad you're reading Michael Singer and making comments about it. I appreciate that.
Cool. Awesome. Well, anything else exciting in your world?
Other than I've got a gazillion daikon radish seedlings that I'm going to take home and probably stir fry, as I got a little excited when I seeded last fall. Yeah. So that ought to be interesting. And some of my onion butts that I put in are making green tops already, so I'm cutting them down, seeing if they'll come back again rather than just making seed all at once. See what happens.
So you put daikon radish in as a cover crop or a winter cover crop? Is that what I understood you to say?
Yeah, I think so, but I'm not sure because it's now coming up.
Well, I guess you must have put it in there if it's coming up.
I'm sure I put in there. I had a whole lot of daikon seed because I do sprouts, and that's my radish that I use in my sprouts. So, yeah.
Right. We did that 2 years ago, and we had a crop. I mean, we had daikon radishes that were 1.5 feet long. They're great for opening up the soil and opening air pathways and making room for worms, all kinds of neat things. So,
yeah, I'm sure that was a factor in my going ahead and planting them so thickly, but I may not get bottoms because I planted them too close, but the greens are good because we're shy on greens right now.
Right. Well, it's good to leave them in the ground because when they start to digest themselves, they create great food for the microorganisms in the soil and help open those channels for holding water and building soil and all kinds of neat stuff. So they're pretty awesome crop to plant.
And then the next year, being a biennial, if you leave the roots in the ground, the ones that are still alive will put up a seed head, and you'll have your seeds.
Nice.
For the following
Very cool.
year. Right. Well, take care and carry on, dear heart. You're doing great.
All right. Lots of love. Blessings.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Here in listener land, let's have a conversation. What's on your mind? Is all this making sense to you? And we bring gardens into the conversation on a fairly regular basis because without actual food going into your structure, you can't be healthy. And it's close to impossible. Some areas of the country, you can actually buy food, but most of the country, what is being sold was grown on dirt, and you can't grow food on dirt. They call it food. It's not food. Because without life and soil, it's interesting. Commercial farmers believe that, well, one of the things you have to do is you have to put 10 gallons of glyphosate on every gallon, or probably on every acre of land, to kill everything that's in the soil, absolutely sterilize the soil. So let's see, now we've killed everything in the soil, now we have dirt, and we're going to see if we can get life from that dirt. Does that make any sense? No sense whatsoever. However, it makes a whole lot of money for chemical companies. Remember, was it back in the 50s we started to pound our brains with better living through chemistry? Oh, wow, what a mess that's been. So one of the things we want to reinforce for everybody is you have to eat food only grows on soil. If you can't find a farmer that's growing actual food, then you better start growing your own, because what's coming out of that grocery store is not, it looks like food. It maybe sometimes smells like food and sometimes even tastes like food. But like, for instance, When we started growing food here on our property about 4 years ago, we had tomatoes that I hadn't tasted a tomato like that in 3 decades or more. And so, when the crop runs out, we'll go buy some. It's hard to find anything that even starts to taste like a tomato. Why is that? Because it's grown on dirt and it's not a tomato. Why is it like a red rubber ball? Why will it rot before it ripens? Because it's not food. It's fake. They talk about fake news. Well, fake food came long before fake news. And it's interesting, to go into a restaurant and to try to explain to someone who's in the so-called food business that you actually want food. Like, do you have butter, actual butter? Oh, yes, we have butter. And now comes the hydrogenated fat, deadly stuff. So understanding where our food comes from and whether or not it is actually food, and if not, then developing soil and growing food becomes an important part of the process of healing. Because your forgiveness work will not be effective if you are nutritionally insolvent. People will run in circles and spirals and spirals and spirals and do the same piece of work over and over and over again if they're not nutritionally solvent. So it's all part of this whole process. When they said holy, they weren't talking about being down on your knees with your hands folded. They were saying you've got to do every level of the energy system correctly in order to get the optimal possible outcome. So that's what we're here to support, and that's why that becomes part of the conversation as well. And if you're out there in listener land, on one of those stations where we can't see you in our control panel, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Call that number, you're listening to the show. Which one? And we're having a conversation. So, Miss Jeanie, what be happening?
Nothing. Everybody's just sitting there listening.
Oh, quiet. Well, somebody push one. Let's talk about it.
We have a hand up. And it
Sweet.
is Miss Julie from, well, I would say Oregon, but where are you from now? France?
I'm from Oregon right now, and I would have pushed my number one sooner, but I'm timing something that I only have 40 seconds left for, and then I have to do something. So I apologize, but I'm looking forward to the MindShifter session this Saturday, and everything you were talking about today was very helpful to me, a reminder. And I just thank you over and over again in my heart, both of you, all of you in the family, these roots, and I know, I keep wanting to say Cecilia, but that's not her name. The other 541 lady, Celinda.
Celinda.
Yeah. Yeah. She's starting to draw these lines, or has been for a while, of how everybody's spiritually speaking the same language, different books, different people, but I still really prefer the acknowledging of the roots. And it's good to hear that the people are picking up on it here and there, beyond capitalism, beyond writing a book and making a buck, and so I acknowledge what she said also. And
cool.
I added my own personal projection that I need it to be from the roots of what Jesus taught, and I think it's great that it's coming forth now.
I'm with you on that. How's your dad doing?
He's fine. He's the same. I haven't gotten to see him yet. I'm emptying out my storage unit first, but I'm in touch, so I know that, there's nothing dire or changing or, getting worse.
Right.
Good.
Good. Well,
So,
sending
yeah.
uplifting energy in his direction.
Thank you, thank you. I know you say that with a lot of compassion. Thank you. So, sorry I have to go, but I do, and I hope someone else will come on.
Enjoy
and
your
be
day.
with you also. Yes, all right.
All right. We'll see you on
Thank you.
Saturday. Remember to get your mind shifter selected Friday evening and do some writing.
That's right. And it's
Okay.
11 o'clock Eastern time, right? Yep.
Eastern time, yes. It'll be 8 o'clock out there.
So that's 8 a.m. for Pacific. Yeah, okay.
That'll
See you
be
then.
it. All right. See you then. Blessings.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that being mentioned, if there's anybody out there that would like to join us, the second Saturday and Sunday, third, pardon me, yeah, we changed it, was second. Third Saturday and Sunday of every month at 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. Eastern time, we engage in MindShifters and Still Point Breathing Club. So anybody who'd like to join us for that, you can do one single session where you'll learn the Still Point Breathing process and have an experience of it. You receive a couple of videos on the MindShifters process and how it works. And so Saturday we actually step in, do a little process work, and then go into the Still Point breathing. And then on Sunday we'll step back into, okay, what's moved, what's surfaced, what needs to be processed, and do a question and answer sharing session. So if you'd like to join us for that, again, you can do one session, or we have a 3-session package. You can do 3 monthly sessions, or there's an annual sign-up if you'd like to join us for that. That's going to happen this Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're interested in joining us and you're not a member of the group yet, drop Jeanie an email, or if you've got my number, drop me a text or call me. Jeanie's email is jeanie@whyagain.org. So if you drop Jeanie an email letting us know your name and your phone number, that you're interested in joining us for that session, then we'll be in touch and get you set up to do it. The ever-expanding MindShifters list sent out to you. I think we're up to, 17 different sets of MindShifters now, Jeanie?
I need to look.
I think it is 17 or maybe 19. In any event, if you want to join us, drop a note. Other than that, if you're out there in listener land, how can we support you? What's on your mind? 563-999-3581. Call that number. You're listening to the show directly. Push 1, and we're having a conversation. Don't wait till the last minute. Push the button now.
We now have 17 sections.
17, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
We have 12 minutes left. How about I read another little section out of this?
Oh, sure. Let's go for it.
So imagine what it would be like if you didn't have to bring this thing with you everywhere you go, talking about the roommate. Real spiritual growth is about getting out of this predicament. But first you have to realize that you've been locked in there with a maniac. In any situation or circumstance, your roommate can suddenly decide, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk to this person. And you would immediately feel tense and uncomfortable. Your roommate can ruin anything you're doing without a moment's notice. It could ruin your wedding day or even your wedding night. That part of you can ruin anything and everything, and it generally does. You buy a brand new car, and it's beautiful, but every time you drive it, your inner roommate finds something wrong with it. The mental voice keeps pointing out every little squeak, every little vibration, until eventually you don't even like the car anymore. Once you see what this could do to your life, you are ready for spiritual growth. You're ready for real transformation when you finally say, look at this thing. It's ruining my life. I'm trying to live a peaceful, meaningful existence, but I feel like I'm sitting on top of a volcano. At any moment, this thing can decide to freak, close down, or fight with what's happening. One day, it likes someone. The next day, it decides to pick on everything they do. My life is a mess just because this thing that lives in here with me has to make a melodrama out of everything. Once you've seen this and you learn to no longer identify with your roommate, you're ready to be free of yourself.
So the conversations that go on inside of people's heads are myriad. And what resides there is a whole history, literally the history of the whole bloodline. And in particular, for those who live in things like, instant anger or fear, depression, it's all a product of thought disorders. And each thought disorder needs to be uncovered and removed. Again, the mechanism of removal is forgiveness. You'll notice that unless you're just a generally miserable person, you're never upset with anybody when they're doing everything you want them to do, when they're fulfilling all the goals you have for them. Notice, everybody's cool. But the minute either you or someone else violates a goal you hold for you or that someone else, notice the mind starts to project its upset into its brain's image of you or that other. And it doesn't discriminate. Whatever any object of attention will do, if a goal is violated, then the mind will take its unresolved dynamics and put them into the brain's image of whoever that someone is. And so recognizing that, you realize that the goal is the key way into healing what's going on in the unconscious mind. You remember in the ancient scriptures they said, take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life. That word heart in our modern updated language would be the unconscious. You must forgive from your heart. Read that, remove from your unconscious the wrongs of your brother. The things that you put into your brain's image of your brother have to remove from your physiology, from your unconscious. Who'd have thunk it, the way the Greeks translated those ancient teachings, that this man Yeshua had the keys to the unconscious mind and exactly how to heal it. Precisely how to heal it. And those teachings have been, in too many cases, disappeared and hidden by people who refused to either understand or do their own work. Remember that passage we've talked about before where a group of disciples are with Yeshua, and basically they ask the question, what do we need to do to please the Creator? And he tells them, and half of his audience, literally half of his disciples, get up and leave and never come back, and they whine on their way out the door. Too hard a saying. Some people think it's too hard to clean up their own minds, to clean up their own past, to clean up the generational patterns. There's nothing hard about it. It's actually very simple, though not always easy. In the Aramaic language, the word forgive that's been translated as forgive is the word shabag or shabak, and it literally translates to cancel. This is where the goals become the key way into the unconscious, because the goal is the driver for perceptual rest and serenity, or, if depending on the content of the mind, will just as happily bring forward trauma, depression, pain, rage, fear, and guilt. And it will bring forward whatever's in the generations. Due to the word generation being genari, which means cause. Causes are held within the mind, and that includes the causes unresolved of pain in the genes. So it behooves us to understand how to collapse the surface mind's projected images and get down to the root of the real thing and begin to clean that out. And that's what happens with first century Aramaic forgiveness. You just start to clean it out. Getting rid of it. So what is it that you need to face in your own world that you need to get rid of? What are you working on? Look at the situation, the circumstance. Identify the goal that's driving your perception at any given moment, especially in moments of pain. Cancel that goal. Having canceled the goal or removed the driver for pained perception, the pained perception collapses. You now have access to your own unconscious dynamics. And you don't need to figure anything out to do it. Take the tool. If you're not using the forgiveness processes yet, please go to our website, whyagain.org. And in the upper left-hand corner of the home page, there's a link that says Start Here. Click that link and start to work through it. You can do the worksheet live on the website, download any number of different versions of the worksheet from the website, and or you can go to your app store on your phone and type in the words Heartland, Heartland, Aramaic, Aramic, forgiveness. If you type that into your app store, you'll be looking at the world's only forgiveness app. That app is designed to be extremely private. Only one permission is required to operate it. We don't want to be able to dial your phone or make changes to your file system or send texts or take pictures or look at pictures or take video. We're not interested in any of that. The only permission that's required to use the app is, and we did this very consciously and very purposely so that it would be as private as possible, the only permission needed is, of course, it has to use the internet in order to function. Once you finish your first worksheet, you'll have the option, if you choose, to print it as a PDF. If you're going to do that, then it will ask for a second permission. And the second permission will simply be to write to your drive so that it can save what it is that you want to save. Otherwise, there are no permissions. So again, go to your app store, type in Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness, download the app, and from within the app you can do two different versions of the worksheet. You can do the Drag-On Klingon game, and on every page there's a link where if you've got a question, gee, I'm doing step 5 and I don't understand it, then drop us a note. Click that link. Gee, Michael, I'm doing step 5 and here's my question. Send it. Jeanie will receive it and we'll address the question on the radio show. So you've got about 3 minutes. Time for one quick call if somebody wants to put a hand up real quick. Any other thoughts for you, Jeanie?
Well, we actually only have a minute and a half.
A minute and a half, okay.
Close out.
All right, well, everybody, thank you for joining us, and we hold the space for you to have the best year yet of your eternal life. Contact us if you're interested in joining us for Still Point Breathing this weekend. Otherwise, have an awesome day. Blessings. Bye-bye.